Europa's Blood, a novel by James Daniel Shunk. In our last chapter, Colonel Argbetha and Prince Toak of the Peace Initiative discussed Europa's blockade with Supreme Leader Remus of Earth. Remus gave the Peace Initiative an alternative: hand over the time machine key to end the blockade of Europa. But the Peace Initiative has established a protocol, Red Paper 13, to either retrieve or destroy the dangerous time machine, as it can be used as a weapon. Remus has given the Peace Initiative one day to hand over the key. But because of Red Paper 13, that key will only be bait. In the meantime, the only focus is to stop the state's infiltration of Europa and secure her security net. Chapter 10. Spartacus. Late Monday night, the starship Thanatos limped into Outpost Spartacus, Mars's orbital Coast Guard station. Pitzy carefully maneuvered her malfunctioning starship into its airlock ring, badly banging the locking clamp twice before getting it right. She shut down the last two functioning quantum plasma engines and sighed with relief. "Well, we made it in one piece." Lex was busy shutting down the systems. "About time," Song said. The lights in the cabin dimmed. "Pitzy," Lex said, "the airlock is extended and sealed. We can go." 16 long hours I shall never get back," Moreland said dryly. "And we are not there yet." Song had been counting the minutes. All these delays were adding up, and now they had to wait for repairs. He did not even want to start thinking about best-case or worst-case scenarios. He just hoped the repairs were fast. He was chomping at the bit to move ahead. Stopping here pained him beyond measure. What would he do if they arrived at Jupiter only to realize they had missed an opportunity to get the time machine back? His anxiety was peaking. "Out of the silence," he told himself quietly as he made the sign of the cross. Pitzy turned and saw him do it. She looked as if she would ask about it, then dismissed it. They went into the main cabin. "We have to check in with the PI," Lex said. Pitzy took Song by the hand. "Come on, let's go." Her smile did not look forced. Song could see glimmers of happiness in her eyes. They held his for a moment, and then she looked away. Lex pushed by them and busied himself, opening the round airlock hatch. Soon the door hissed and pulled back. He stepped through the narrow airlock to the adjacent station hatch door and pressed a series of virtual keys on a touch panel, and the door pulled back. The weary travelers stepped through into a large round chamber. Song felt fresh, cool air on his face. Around the perimeter were equally spaced hatch doors, the same as theirs. Between each entry was a large contoured window. Song looked out the closest one to see a space shuttle docking next to the Thanatos. Behind the shuttle, taking up the whole background, was the red planet of Mars. He walked to the window and laid his hands on the cold glass. "Wow, Puggy and Tad will never believe the weekend I've had." Then he shrugged. He knew he could not tell anyone about his adventure. It was at this moment that he felt incredibly alone. Pitzy's words came back to haunt him. He knew all about the danger he introduced through his knowledge of the future. And what else had she said? Due to this knowledge, he could never be allowed to go back. He was incensed. She was using him. If he did not have the time machine key, she would have no use for him. He was unsure why she had decided to bring him and Moreland along. She could take the key by force if she wished, but he recalled what Pitzy had said: "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer." Maybe that was it. He would find a way to go home, no matter what the cost. She could not stop him. His heart was set. He promised himself that he would not be left at the mercy of Pitzy and the Peace Initiative. He hated it here. He hated the taste of the food and water, the filth and germs, the poverty, the cold showers, never getting enough sleep. And most of all, he hated Pitzy, the backstabber. He let his eyes pass over the red planet. It was spectacular. Many shades of swirling red with milky white poles. Song could see several mountain ranges along the surface. This brought him a smidge of happiness, but he wished his heart was in a different place. If this were a vacation, he would be having the time of his life. But the uncertainty of his future left a cloud to hang over everything. His joy was gone, and apprehension was bubbling from every pore. Pitzy moved up next to him. "What do you think?" "Since I was a little boy, I wanted to be an astronaut. I didn't think it was possible, and here I am, looking down at Mars." This adventure allowed him to live his dream and explore his heart, despite his unhappiness. This thought reminded him of a vacation he had taken with Audrey. They had visited Paris over the summer. He had always dreamed of visiting this place, but Audrey could not have fun. It was too hot, the food was weird, and there was too much walking. They even fought over how to read the map. She simply could not stop being miserable. What had been a dream for him had turned into a nightmare. However, after he had gotten home and resisted the initial urge to break up with her, he realized he had still seen one of the most beautiful, romantic cities on Earth. She would never be able to take that away from him, no matter how hard she tried. This view is unusual. Pitzy looked down also. Usually, the dust in the air from the deserts keeps the surface obscured. "Do you use state time here?" He was looking impatiently at his watch. He could sense the seconds, minutes, and hours slipping away. She looked at her square pad watch face. "No. The days here are not the same length, 24.5 hours, and the seasons are twice as long as Earth's. But all spaceships stay on state standard. Space travel universally respects that." She waved at the red planet. "Welcome to my home." "It's amazing," Song said truthfully. Pitzy pointed up. "Look." Above, they could see a ring that was part of the outpost structure. She continued. "We are at the southernmost tip of the base's hub. There is actually over 1 kilometer of structure above us. The ring, you see, stretches around the whole hub. You can see one of the spokes that attach the ring to the hub. See?" While viewing Spartacus from the Thanatos, Song remembered thinking it looked like a child's toy top. "So cool," Moreland said as he put his hand on Song's shoulder. Song looked up at the silver metal ring that circled far above. Most of it was shaded from sight. "I wish you could have seen the whole thing in the light during our approach," Pitzy said. "It's a sight to behold." Most of the base was shaded as we came up from the south. It's just coming into the sun now. They watched the sunlight work its way over the ring far above, with the rays gleaming off the silver skin. "Where is your hometown?" Moreland asked. Song pondered why Moreland would ask such personal questions. He did not want to get to know these people. He did not want to be concerned about their struggles. He did not want to care about them. "I'm from a city called Hope Station," Pitzy said, "in the Bendacor region." "Do you miss your mom and dad?" Moreland said. "Do you see them often? The life of a commander must keep you busy." "They passed away when I was a little girl. I don't remember much. I was really young when a state terrorist attacked my school." Pitzy lowered her eyes. "I remember my mother was the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. My dad was a doctor and super smart." Moreland frowned and seemed to regret asking the question. "Sorry." Song could not figure out what motivated this girl. She had such a sad life. What makes life worth living? Pitzy was an orphan sleeping in flea-infested beds, wearing tattered clothes, and fighting for... What was the purpose of life? He remembered that the meaning of life was easy to determine by answering a straightforward question. What would you die over? He knew Pitzy would die for Martian peace, which seemed stupidly ironic to him. She would die for peace, so someone else could enjoy it? She had a martyr mentality. Was that the definition of a hero or a fool? Yet this girl seemed passionate about her cause. After all, this made sense to him, as it seemed to give her purpose. He let the thoughts pass away. He reminded himself that he did not care about this girl. He hated her. Yet, somehow, he felt pity for her. "It's okay," Pitzy said solemnly. "My Aunt Karina raised my brother, sister, and me. She was the same as a mother to us. My sister still lives with her." She gently grabbed Song's arm. "Come on, we must go." Lex looked over with a flash of anger. Song saw his expression and pulled his arm away. Pitzy still smiled lightheartedly. "Come on." When they turned around, Song saw that the well-lit chamber was quiet. Only a few travelers in military dress were sitting idly on benches with stuffed duffel bags. The airlock door closest to them pulled back into an unseen recess. Rushed people erupted from the door. Song patted Moreland on the back when he saw two Jupitorians. He stared in awe as the two Anaborgs passed by them. One resembled an African elephant, and the other a black panther dressed in bright-colored tunics. They were unbelievable. He saw creatures that resembled animals walking upright like humans. A friend approached the Anaborgs, and they shook in a forearm shake. Song would not have believed it if he had not seen it. "I told you." Pitzy looped her arm around his as she explained. "They're probably dignitaries of some kind. They look wealthy." The Martians and Anaborgs that had come off the shuttle began lining up at a centrally located elevator bank. A soldier wearing faded light gray Navy coverall fatigues came out of the crowd. "Special Agent," said the man, excited. "I'm Cadet Resh, at your service." He was thin, young, and clean-cut. His brown eyes were friendly. "Where is Lieutenant Osman?" Pitzy asked. "I thought he was going to meet us here." "Well, considering your delay," Resh said. "He retired to his quarters around 1900 hours. I called him before I came to get you. He will be meeting us shortly. Anyway, if you like..." He gestured toward the elevators. "This guy is Navy?" Moreland asked. "I thought you were PI?" "The Navy watches over us," Pitzy said with a hint of affection. Resh smiled at that. They found a short line, and soon the door opened. The lift was fast. A few moments later, everyone walked off onto a higher floor. Song made his way with the others down several wide, airy, well-lit corridors. Large windows also revealed a black field speckled with distant stars. He saw ships arriving and departing. Song and the others finally came to the end of a hall and turned through an automatic door. "Commander Pitzy Omega," a man said from the center of the room. Pitzy rushed across the quiet command room and threw her arms around the neck of the round, heavy man. "Wolfie." Osman had a day's growth of whiskers covering his face. He wore a rumpled, olive-green bathrobe tied over tan pajamas, with the pant legs tucked into his untied military boots. He had oversized reading glasses propped on his baseball cap bill with the words "Hope Station Rebels" embossed on its front, and a small image of a hand holding a badminton racket. Sticking out from around the cap were tufts of brown hair. Pitzy was still smiling. "Did we wake you?" Osman blushed. "I was in bed, but reading. I was excited about your arrival. I couldn't sleep. Pitzy ran her hand along one of his lapels. Doesn't Argbeth? Colonel Argbetha can stuff it, he said. Ever since he got himself assigned here, he has been pressing me to be more like him. You know, more military-like, and I think we both know that's not going to happen. Osmond grabbed the lapels of his robe and pushed out his chest, sucking in his soft belly. I have half a mind to show up for my duty shift dressed like this. What do you think? He laughed. Argbetha would die. No, he wouldn't. He is not back from Jupiter, as long as you don't tell him. You will never make captain with this attitude. Don't remind me, Osmond said. Can I join the PI? Ask the DM. Pitzy gestured to Song and Moreland. Have you read my report? These are the guys from Earth. I'm sure you have heard of them by now. Yes, I talked to Papadakis and also read the brief. Osmond shook the boys' hands. Lads, you are both becoming legendary. Song frowned at that. Pitzy, Osmond continued, I'm having the Thanatos moved to the repair dock. We will put crews on her tonight. Hopefully, we can have her ready by the morning, but nothing can delay you. You should retire immediately. Pitzy shook Osmond's hand vigorously, hugged him, and kissed him on his soft cheek. Thanks, First Lieutenant. Osmond blushed. See you later, handsome, Pitzy said. Cadet Resh led the group from the room. Song rubbed his clean-shaven face 6 hours later while sitting in a cafeteria. In front of him sat his breakfast. A few nearby tables were occupied by quietly talking naval personnel. He stared into his cup of tepid coffee while poking at his scrambled eggs with his fork. He exhaled slowly, finalized the breath with a sip of his black coffee, and concluded it smelled better than it tasted. He looked up as Pitzy walked into the room. She was carrying a steel mug while reading something on a small handheld computer. She sat down, sipping at the steaming liquid, and read for another long moment before looking up. She looked tired. Good morning. Hi, Song said. What's that? He gestured to the small computer she had laid in front of her. Oh, this? Pitzy asked, picking it up. It's called a comp pad. It connects you to everything, whatever you want. She handed it to Song while turning her wrist to show him her watch. And it links to this. Song weighed it in his hand. The thin computer had a touch screen. The image he saw coming back at him looked like a web page. Song noticed Pitzy had been reading an astrology page. The pad looked similar to the one Papadakis had used. Song handed it back. You can get anything on this? Pitzy pressed the pad screen with her finger, selecting something. What do you want to see? Song did not think long before he responded. Since he had been lost in this future time, his thoughts had been dwelling on his mother. He just felt that somehow, had she been here, she would say something encouraging and, to add to that, probably something from her Bible. Maybe this book had something in it that could help him now. Can you access a Bible? Pitzy looked confused. A what? What sort of Bible? A Holy Bible. What is it used for? Pitzy asked. Sorry, are you joking? I guess the direction in life, a big topic of late. Pitzy looked down at her pad screen. I have my horoscope. Can you get a Bible? I am just asking. What will it tell you? Pitzy asked. Through baptism and repentance, it ties us to our God. He is a shepherd of sorts that draws in the lost sheep. He caught himself making the sign of the cross. This suddenly seemed like an essential point to him. I don't know. My mom believes all this. He had that moment where he truly missed his church. He suddenly felt the need to cry. He wiped his eyes. Song glanced at Moreland with embarrassment, and then he looked away. He did not see any judgment in those blue eyes. "We have our astrology," Pitzy offered. "And to add to that, our culture is rich with philosophy. Maybe I can find something." It is not just about information. It is about faith. And not just faith, but the object of the faith. I feel now that is the answer somehow. The answer to what question? Song had been thinking about it since sitting on that tiny island in Mattapoisey Bay. How to get myself unlost. Not sure now if you mean more physically or emotionally. Pitzy laughed. So your Bible is a religious book? Song nodded and wiped his eyes. Before I was born, when the state was ratified as Earth's governing power, it did something that no one, even to this day, can believe. The state tried to burn every physical book on Earth. The event had been referred to as the Book Holocaust. The only books that could be accessed after that horrific event was a state-run digital library called the Golden Source. Sorry, there are no religious books in this library. Song felt at that moment that he had taken a lot for granted. Too much for granted. He was far from his home at the moment. Many Greeks left Earth. It was the beginning of a new Martian culture in many ways. And if you do want one of these Bibles, book miners seek out and smuggle printed books off Earth and back to Mars. But Song, there are not many printed books left. The state really did try and burn every book on Earth. I am not kidding. Still, some books survived. Just not many. Pitzy looked at him with hurt eyes. What god holds your belief? Is it Zeus? Song chuckled and then felt terrible for it. He did not deserve the right to laugh at anything. If you ask me, my God is the only God, the Judeo-Christian one, the God of the original human tribe, going back to the creation of man. The lineage of this faithful line comes through to modern times, and from what I am hearing, he was killed by the state. The Jupiterians believe in a God. Not sure if it is the same as yours. What happened to God? Song asked. You can't wipe out God. I am still not sure what God you are referring to, Pitzy said. If you are referring to omniscient knowledge or wisdom, that is what the stars offer. At that point, she looked insulted. He shook his head again with distraught helplessness. The God that we call Trinity is God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, and God the Holy Spirit. With that, he bowed his head. Why do you care about this God? Why do you care about this faith? Pitzy asked. Song said only one more thing. Where do you go after death? Jesus, sure a prophet and teacher, professed himself as divine. Still, none of that mattered until we saw the events unravel after his execution. His proof came through his own resurrection. Without that, I would have no faith. All this is historical, by the way. I would tell you to research it, but this state burned the evidence. This discussion took him aback. He had been so powerfully moved by his faith when he was young. He'd attended retreats and gone on mission trips. What happened? Why had he chosen a superficial path? Really, it had been so easy to follow. After all, it was the majority of his generation. There was no earth-shattering exodus, nothing to fight for, just redirection of the mind. People just turned inward when there was nothing external. Hyper self-focus. The generation's motto was, "I need to work on myself." He guessed it could be summed up in social media and video games. An idle and bored generation. What he had believed regarding his faith had just slowly faded away. He had never given up a fight. The battle had been lost before it even started. In the truest sense, it was a world war that no one knew was happening. But this war was cultural, and he had taken so much for granted. He felt cut to the heart. That question seemed to make Pitzy stop and think. Resurrected? From death? A few seconds later, her pad beeped. She looked down. Come on. We have to go. A few moments later, they walked off the elevator onto a floor Song had not seen yet, and then walked down another hall and soon down an escalator, which led into a hangar. Song could see many ships there. A few moments later, they saw the Thanatos. Her laser-scorched hull sat dimly under the bright lights of the maintenance bay. A team of men dressed in dirty gray coveralls with the Navy insignia was moving around the ship. Near the loading ramp were Lex, Osman, and an older man. Song and the others walked up. The older man turned away from Lex and shook Pitzy's hand. Special Agent. Colonel Argbeth, Pitzy said. I had heard you were at the bullseye. Osman groaned quietly. Got back 20 minutes ago. I am glad to see you off. I'm also happy your mission on Earth got us the intel we needed. Argbeth looked down at his pad. When I was on Callisto, I was able to confirm everything. Europa has been blockaded. She's surrounded now by 10 state warships. Has there been any word of the time machine? Song asked. Yes, it is orbiting Jupiter. That is encouraging, Osman said. He wore a crisply pressed light gray navy shirt and black slacks. Just send in your Martian Navy fleet, Lex said. This is beyond the peace initiative and our mandate. We hack, we listen, we peacefully infiltrate. That is all. We are not soldiers. We almost died getting here. No fleet, not yet, Argbeth said. We're trying to avoid war, Lex, not start one. This is the mandate of the peace initiative. I'm not worried about the occupation of Europa, as it's impenetrable. I don't know what the state hopes to achieve with their blockade, as no unwanted vessels can get through the security net. Nothing has changed. Your orders, and this comes from the DM, are to get that time machine. Do whatever you must. The state cannot stay in possession of such a weapon. Lex looked suspiciously at the colonel. The DM is giving our orders to you? Look, we are all on the same team, right? Argbeth looked more annoyed than ever. Is this security net impenetrable? Song asked. What if the state sends a small task force to Europa, disabling this net from its source? Maybe from within the pumping installation? Impossible, Argbeth said. The state would need to find a way to drop soldiers down to Europa's surface without mechanical assistance. Then they would have to survive temperatures lower than -70, after which they would need to find a way into the Anaborg facility without setting off any alarms. They would need help from the inside. There is not an Anaborg alive that would help them. The Anaborgs would sooner die. All of them. What about the thief who traveled here with us? Could he get into Europa? Argbeth sighed. Please, son, that's impossible. First, he would need wings. Then he would have to survive the most severe winter conditions. What about just sending him through a port? Song asked. We saw the fake passports. Won't work now. Lex forwarded us a vid image of the passports. The images have been distributed to Martian and Jupiterian immigration. Song wondered how Lex would have sent any images. Song could not recall seeing Lex taking pictures when they examined the passports. And to further complicate matters, Argbeth said, the state parked a large war-class vessel off our planetary border late last night, sometime after your arrival. We have 2 Martian Taurus-class cruisers shadowing her as we speak, Osmond said. We will never make it to Jupiter with that state ship on our 6, Pitzy said. Osmond cleared his throat. We will distract the state ship with our cruisers to give you a head start. We'll put them through a bogus safety check or something. This is too dangerous, Lex said. Argbeth glanced sternly at Lex. The colonel seemed like he was going to say something, then just looked back at his pad. Song felt anger well up inside of him. He knew what the mission was. The task was to destroy the time machine. Mr. Song, Argbeth said, you have the key, correct? Yes, sir. Keep it safe. Remus has asked us to deliver that key in exchange for a full state withdrawal. They will backstab us, Pitzy said. Song did not plan to give his key away. He wanted that time machine for himself. Special Agent, we have thought of that, Argbeth said. Rendezvous coordinates for the time machine key exchange have been sent to us, Osmond said. They are in your ship's crib map. It's near an old interplanetary floating ship graveyard. Review your current orders as outlined in Red Paper 13, Argbeth said. It has been sent to you. You'd better get going. Peace depends on it. Safe journey. He turned and walked away. Pitzy smiled at Osmond. Thanks for your help, Colonel and First Lieutenant. Osmond quickly hugged Pitzy and then followed after the colonel. The travelers walked up the gangway ramp into the Thanatos. Soon after, the ship was in open space, moving away from the orbital station Spartacus. Pitzy took one last look at her home planet of Mars and sighed. The Thanatos turned toward the brightest star, toward Jupiter, and, in the blink of an eye, was gone.